How's it going?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. This is our new lovely, slightly... Is it PC to say ghetto audio setup?
No, it's not okay. We're not allowed to say it. It's our, but there's something not fancy about our audio setup.
It's fancy. It could use some cable management and a little TLC for in some areas, but we got two mics. It seems to be recording. Audition hasn't rebelled yet. Give it 5 minutes, but
Yeah, also this is at our kitchen table and it's going to be a pain to redo this every time, but
yeah, eventually I need to get a mic arm for this too. I feel like that would simplify the process.
if only we had like an office, that would be cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm getting better. My setup time today wasn't terrible. It was honestly, I spent more time arguing with Adobe products than I did actually setting up the hardware. So.
You did. Any hoodle, we are here for RNC Watch TV to discuss television, and we recently finished.
Google's trying to interject itself into the conversation.
This is an RC conversation.
Very rude.
So G your way out. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So we finished up. I was gonna say Bill and Ted. Ted Lasso.
Very nice season ending.
One of the best wrap-up episodes I've ever seen, to be honest. I was super impressed.
Oh yeah, no, I was pleasantly surprised. Like it was a really, really good. It was a proper way to end that arc.
I think one of my favorite parts was when they did the video and then all of the players are crying on the field. That was really funny.
I love that. The musical. The so long farewell.
I also thought, yeah, that was good too. I
was about to say, even though we both hate musicals, I can allow for that one. That one was good.
Okay, we don't hate musicals. We feel the same way, which is if we're watching a musical, like an actual musical, we're having a good time. But if you say, "Do you want to watch a musical?" we're pretty much always going to say no. And anytime we're watching a TV show and the characters start singing, we're both like,
I'm like, why? I didn't sign up for this. I just wanted the next episode and whatever random show I'm watching.
It's kind of like I like live music, but if I'm at a bar to catch up with a friend and a band starts setting up, I'm just like annoyed because I'm like, I'm here to talk with my friend. Same for a TV show. It's like, I'm here to hear these characters talk, not sing. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I like the analogy for meeting a friend at a bar and then a band sets up. That's the worst. But that's how I feel when the TV show that I was expecting gets interrupted by song and dance.
I can't remember how it worked out with Keely though. I mean, I like that she kicked them both out of her house. That was funny and correct. But
I don't know if it ever
did that really wrap up?
I feel like that was honestly the end of it, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong, but I don't think that she got back with either of them after that. I think that was the end of her relationship arc.
I loved the Rebecca's a stepmom.
Oh, yeah.
The whole, you're going to be a mom. And she's, mad because she's past her childbearing age, and then
I thought that was a really nice touch at the end when she bumped into the dude at the airport.
Yeah.
And the little girl.
Yeah. I'm all for positive depictions of quote unquote alternative family arrangements.
No, that was a really good touch.
Yeah, okay. So any more to say about Lasso?
No, it was just a really, really pleasant ending. Rupert got what he had coming to him. I like that Nathan's back with the team. It's just like the people that deserved a good ending got a good ending, and the people that didn't, strangely enough, didn't. It was almost too good of an ending. It was a good one. I liked it.
Yeah, my only note on the Rupert arc was...
I think I know.
I did say this when we were watching it, but...
It's a valid point.
I think so. I don't like the term wanker as an insult because there's nothing wrong with masturbation. It's a sex negative.
No, it was very sexy.
Anyway, we're pro masturbation in this household.
I don't know how to follow that up without just awkwarding up the hell out of this situation.
Okay, now on to the fun part. So we've started to watch Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story.
Really nice. I've liked it.
Oh my freaking Lord, I love it so much. I have enjoyed it thoroughly.
The budget for costuming and set design for that show has to be astronomical, but it is so worth it.
The Gilded Age has kind of like set the bar for me. And it's not quite to that level, but it's close.
No, but yeah, it's close. It's not Gilded Age, but it is damn close.
It does seem like they got some cash between Bridgerton and Queen Charlotte. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, no, it does seem way higher budget than the first time around, or the ones. It's been so long since I've seen any Bridgerton stuff, but this seems to be more polished and more well produced. Also, there's only one other show Star Trek Picard did it. I very much like the 3-second title sequence.
Yeah.
Like where they don't have a full set out title sequence and they do I don't even know if they do anything at the end. I know Picard had the final season had basically a title sequence over or behind the end credits, but no, I like how a lot of shows are starting to just have a really short thing to say the episode title, give the show identity, but you don't draw it out to a minute where I have to skip every time, you know.
Yeah, apparently the title sequence, besides the credits, the point of it was, you used to have your show had to be a certain length, and then, obviously there's commercials, but if the show and the commercials didn't quite meet the length requirements, then you could shorten or lengthen the title sequence to make it all fit. And I thought that was really interesting.
That explains a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so it's like a relic of the broadcast era. But in the streaming era, having a long title sequence is really just annoying. It just means you have to have your remote near you, or in some cases, I forget which ones. I feel like there's some streaming service or maybe some shows where you can't skip it, and that makes me... I think Apple TV won't let you skip it. No, that seems wrong. I don't know. Anyway.
I think it won't let us skip... Well, no, yeah, it'll let us skip the title sequences. It shows the very, very end, it'll offset it by 3 seconds.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've noticed. They'll still get the logo staying in, but they'll let you skip most of it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I appreciate the short title sequence. It's been a while actually since I've done this, but I'm kind of still doing it. So I had a very long phase starting in pandemic where I was reading a lot of medieval and Renaissance European history books, and now I'm reading The Path to Power about Lyndon Johnson. So it's still history, but it's much more modern. Anyway, it's making me think about those books, watching the Charlotte show, and I was thinking about, what are we on? I think we've got 1 or 2 more left in the series.
Yeah, we've made pretty good progress.
Yeah, we're almost done with it. So spoilers ahead. But the servants getting together to try to bring the king and queen together reminds me of, Catherine de Medici and her husband were married for 10 years before they ever had any kids. And part of the problem was they couldn't figure out how to have sex in a way that would lead to childbearing.
Oh no.
That would lead to pregnancy. And so she started to ask around for help. And someone in the court pointed her to a physician who was able to tell her how to have sex with the king in such a way as to result in pregnancy. And there was I want to say, obviously sources differ. Some people think that what ended up happening was doggy style, essentially, that something about his anatomy and her anatomy, that was kind of the only way that was going to work. And then others, we can't know for sure, what the actual answer was, which sucks. I wish that had more documentation, because what an interesting question. But apparently there is actual historical precedent for people in the court getting together to try to fix royal romance problems.
I never would have thought about that.
Yeah. I took other notes.
You took a lot of notes.
I took a lot of notes, yeah.
I'm going to get eviscerated in the comments for this episode. All right. just bring it.
Or, I mean, I'm going to give people more fodder for the evisceration, but yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, so we were doing a little bit of like YouTubing on the real George and Charlotte, and apparently the real George really did socially isolate the real Charlotte. I mean, it definitely like struck me when, you know, Charlotte's eating her meals by herself. Like, why doesn't she have a friend around, you know, if he's not going to be around? And in most royal courts, most royal courts in medieval and Renaissance Europe were crowded. There were a lot of people around all the time. And so there wasn't a lot of loneliness for the monarchs. I mean, being a monarch is kind of inherently lonely in that even though you have a lot of people around, like you're having an experience that is quite different from theirs. And there's a certain amount of remove that the hierarchy and the customs require. But you're not alone. You're not physically alone. But apparently Charlotte was kind of alone, which is, again, unusual and sucks. And I think it's also like, I think American culture equates loneliness with romance. And I think that's really unfortunate. And one of the things that I really like about the show is that it is centering like female friendship and female friendship among, you know, the two of the older female characters. So just to have like subplots that center older female characters, I think is really cool. To center their sex drive, I think is really cool. To center their friendship. Like, these are things that are not centered in most media and most culture, so I think all that's super cool. But it did make me think about that. I think it's interesting that the real George did buy the real Charlotte a house then known as Buckingham House, now known as Buckingham Palace. Apparently the real Charlotte didn't like moving from house to house as often as they did, which made me think about, again, Catherine de Medici. So in the book that I read about her, which I think, I forget what it's called, maybe Catherine de Medici, I'm not sure, but I can find it if people want to know. But anyway, they talked about the reason that they had to move, royal courts had to move from house to house, is that in any one house, you're going to have a lot of people, and you're not going to have indoor plumbing or any way to deal with trash. So after a few weeks, the shit and trash pile up to an extent that it stinks and it is unsafe, like it's unhygienic. And so, like, basically the court has to then leave for a new house, and then the servants clean it up to an extent, but then to an extent things just decompose. And then by the time you get back to the house you were at, like, the shit and garbage has just decomposed to a point where it doesn't bother you and it's not a safety hazard anymore. And that's why they moved around so much.
I never thought about that.
Nor did I. I was like, I wondered. I'm like, why are they moving around so much? Seems like a real pain in the ass. Well, it's expensive and time consuming. I mean, they're having to move in horse-drawn carriages. But that's why they did it. And I think there was probably weather considerations as well. But I mean, it's all fucking northern Europe. It's just cold as shit everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, oh my gosh, the whole subplot with the guy who's treating the king was so interesting.
That dude is just a freaking sadist.
Seemingly, I'm super curious about like how true to life any of that is.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that like the things that we have been listening to haven't mentioned it. But that doesn't mean it's not, there's no truth to it. I just really don't know.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'd like to actually research and see if there is any truth, because if so, Jesus.
I do think it's interesting. Like, it got me thinking about one of the problems with mental health and with like disciplining your children is that people are so different. Like, a lot of people you just, like, a lot of kids, you just need to be like, oh, like, have you thought about doing it this way? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And they'll just, like, act the way you want them to. And then you have, like, on the other end of the spectrum, sociopaths or, like, psychopaths. I remember reading this story about psychopaths, and essentially, like, you have to punish, like, there has to be punishment and reward. Like, there's no conscience. So the only way to get them to act in a pro-social way is for there to be bad consequences when they act antisocial and rewards when they act pro-social. So, you know, it's hard to say. Another interesting fact is that when you look at what works as far as, like, therapy for mental wellness, the modality, the talent of the therapist's amount of training, the therapist's experience, all of that is less important than the affinity between the therapist and the patient. That, like, the quality of the relationship is more important than any of those other factors for how effective the therapy is. Yeah, I mean, it's not terribly. It was surprising that was, like, that it was true to that extent, but it wasn't surprising to me that it was important. But it was surprising to me that it was more important than all of those other factors. Anyway, the point is, people are individual. And then the last thing I was thinking about was, the one thing that really bothers me about the whole Bridgerton project is that it seems like there's this. I think that women will be attracted to men who feel like they need to chase, right? So, like, the whole time, Charlotte is chasing, not the whole time, but most of the show, Charlotte is chasing the king, sometimes literally.
Yeah.
But always metaphorically, like, pursuing him, like, trying to understand him, trying to know him, trying to be close to him. And I think that there's this fantasy that women tend to have that the show exemplifies, that, you know, he's running away from you, not because he's not interested or because he doesn't love you, but because there's some barrier in y'all's way, like this promise that he's made to his dad and the Bridgerton, or about his dad and the Bridgerton thing, or, you know, it's actually in this show, he's actually rejected her because he loves her so much that he doesn't want to, you know, be rejected by her or upset her or put her in danger. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with fantasy, but it's just, I also just want to be like, okay, but in real life, if he's acting like that, like, there's probably not some hidden explanation that's like, he really loves you. Like, he's probably just not that interested.
Right.
Yeah, like,
yeah. It seems to be exemplifying very unhealthy relationship dynamics.
Right.
Or promoting them, or
I don't know if it's promoting, but like,
what's the word I'm looking for?
Like, it's
idealizing.
It's a fantasy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, this is not how real life works most of the time. And people are allowed to have fantasies. It's not on fiction to, like, accurately represent relational dynamics, just like it's not on superhero movies to accurately represent what, you know, humans are physically capable of, right? Like, we can differentiate fantasy from reality. But especially if you're, like, a young girl, I guess I just want to, like, be like, yo, dog, just so you know.
This ain't it.
This ain't it. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it ends. I'd like to actually go back at some point and watch some of the other, or the older seasons of Bridgerton itself, because, well, there's been enough time since watching this and watching Bridgerton itself that, like, I've forgotten most of the Bridgerton storylines, but they're coming back slowly as they go into, like, the flash forwards where it's showing the characters as they were in Bridgerton. It's kind of filling in the gaps, but
yeah. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. See you soon.